YouTube, with the NBA regular season finally over, I think it's about time on the channel we do some all NBA selection predictions for the 2024 regular season. Let's get right into it, folks. Now, a couple disclaimers I want to mention before I get into the list. First one, I will not be doing the all NBA defensive teams in this video. Maybe we'll do that another time, but this is just for the regular 3 all NBA teams and who's going to make it. And the second one is, if you guys remember a couple years ago, they actually implemented something new, which is a great change to the all NBA teams where it's totally positionless now. So I will not be doing like, 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center. It'll just be totally positionless, just like the NBA does it now. Let's get right into it, folks. Starting off with the all NBA first team selections for the 2024 NBA season. These are the players that had the most exceptional seasons, regardless of position or play style, doesn't matter. These 5 players stood out the most to me, and I think they should be held in the highest regard as far as performance across the league in the 2024 NBA season. Starting out, we have Dallas Mavericks point guard Luka Doncic. Luka is definitely going to be getting a lot of first place MVP votes this season for his spectacular play, all around offensive basketball mastery, and just doing things night in and night out that we've never seen in the NBA. Let's talk about the Dallas Mavericks, how Luka and Kyrie and company, towards the end of the season, Luka really took them to the place they needed to be. Now they're the 5 seed going into the Western Conference playoffs. And like I said, mostly because of the play of Luka Doncic. Some of the highlights of Luka's season, one just being his statistical dominance across the 2024 season, averaging almost a 34-point triple-double on incredible efficiency. Like I said, willing the Mavs also to a 5 spot in the Western Conference playoffs, dropping 70 points against the Atlanta Hawks this season in an NBA game. This dude deserves this spot maybe better than anyone else I'm about to name. So Luka Doncic, all NBA first team. The second player on my all NBA first team list will be Denver Nuggets center Nikola Jokic. This guy needs no introduction to you guys, and I would imagine a lot of these players won't, but when you're having a conversation about statistical dominance and winning dominance, Jokic has to be brought up first out of anyone in the entire NBA, this season being no exception, averaging 26 points, 12 rebounds, and 9 assists on 58% from the field. Yeah, I mean, I don't have many words for Jokic. I think he's just a lock to be on this first team. It might even win the MVP. We'll see about that. But needless to say, clearly deserving of this spot. The third player on my All-NBA first team selection will be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, or SGA for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Point guard, shooting guard, whatever you want to call him. Dude absolutely hooped out of his mind this season, carrying his Oklahoma City Thunder to the first seed in the Western Conference, which is something that nobody could have predicted going into the season. This guy is an absolute problem on both ends of the floor. Again, another guy that I think should get real MVP consideration. I'm not sure we've ever seen a player quite like SGA in this league. A player that comes to mind for an okay comparison would be Dwayne Wade in his prime, but even that is not a great comparison to me. He plays a lot different and does a lot of different things, but SGA averaged 30 points a game, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists on 54% shooting. Like I said, carrying the Oklahoma City Thunder to the 1 seed in the West. Dude deserves all the praise in the world, and the crazy thing, just like Luka, is that he's only 25 years old, and we can expect him to get even better, and we can expect the Oklahoma City Thunder to get even better. So crazy season for SGA, definitely deserves it. Now, the last 2 picks of the first team all NBA are 2 that I think could be debated amongst fans, but here's who I have. For my 4th selection, I'm going to be picking Jalen Brunson, point guard for the New York Knicks. Jalen Brunson has something about him where, at his size of only 6'2", not super athletic, is still able to find ways to lead the Knicks to heights and victories that you wouldn't expect from a player like this. Like I said, in regards to his physical gifts and abilities, 6'2", not a crazy athlete, but dude just wins basketball games and carries that team, like I said, to a place we wouldn't expect maybe just looking at him, right? The Knicks are currently the 2nd seed in the NBA playoffs, and that is mostly because of Jalen Brunson's ability to raise the team's floor night in and night out, and also raise their ceiling night in and night out. Jalen Brunson averaged 29 points a game this season, 4 rebounds, and 7 assists on 48% from the field and 40% from 3. So not only was he averaging great numbers, but also doing it extremely efficiently and winning at the same time. Like I said, getting the Knicks to that 2 spot, which really sets him above a lot of other players I could mention or this list. As far as the NBA first team goes, takes care of the basketball, great playmaker, unselfish. He has a really high assist to turnover ratio for a player that handles the ball and operates an offense as much as he does. So in my opinion, Jalen Brunson, with a lot of injuries on his team throughout the season and adversity for the Knicks, still getting them to that number 2 seed, definitely deserves a spot along with his stats and stuff like that. So for the 5th player and the final player to round out the first team all NBA selection for me, I have Celtics forward Jayson Tatum, who, I've said this before, but just looking at his numbers, they don't pop out as something different for him, which I think is underrated. Anytime you can drop about 28 points per game, close to 8 rebounds, 5 assists on really good efficiency while winning at an elite level during the regular season, those are things you can take for granted. And I think Jayson Tatum is one of those players that the numbers are consistently great, but they don't fluctuate season to season or have peaks and valleys. So we kind of just expect it out of him and then take it for granted. Oh, 28 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, that's normal for Tatum, so it's nothing crazy. crazy, but when you consider the Celtics won 64 games this season, which is by far the best record in the NBA, when you take that into account and then also take into account that Jayson Tatum has had elite numbers this season and has been super consistent, I don't think there's much debate here. I think there's a couple players you could put over him if you really wanted to make the case for it, but the best player on the best team in the NBA definitely deserves a lot of recognition and consideration for a list like this. First team All-NBA selection for Jayson Tatum, and that'll round out my All-NBA first team. Let's get into the All-NBA second team, folks. Now, I know a lot of people were expecting a certain player probably to be on the first team. That wasn't for me, and that is Giannis Antetokounmpo, coming in as the first player selected for my All-NBA second team. Giannis, like I said, a lot of people probably have him on the first All-NBA team, but I do think Tatum and Brunson squeak by him just a little bit because of their team success, and I think Brunson has had maybe less help than Giannis this season, and I also think, obviously, one game in the standings isn't the biggest deal in the world and shouldn't determine a list like this, but I do think the Bucks have struggled late in the season, and I'm not blaming that all on Giannis, but he is the best player and he has to take some of that responsibility, and that's why I have him leading the second team. Let's talk about Giannis this season. Obviously, like I said, another guy we can easily take for granted season to season because he's just so great, and that's what we expect, and he does it every single year. Giannis averaged 30 points, 11 rebounds, and 7 assists with a steal and a block per game this season across 73 games played. Giannis shot 61% from the field, which I believe, yes, is a career high for him, which is insane that you can be that efficient scoring that much. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, run and dunk, but listen, if it was that easy, then why aren't other people doing it at the level that he is? You could say, oh, he's just physically gifted, sure, but that does play into how great he is. So Giannis obviously deserving of the second team All-NBA. You could definitely argue a case for first team All-NBA. Like I said, I just have those two guys a little higher. That's it. For the second selection on my All-NBA second team list, I have Minnesota Timberwolves guard Anthony Edwards, and Ant has had one of the more underappreciated seasons across the league in my opinion. I actually have him as a kind of a sleeper MVP candidate. I think he'll definitely not even be considered for the award because of his numbers, which his numbers are great, by the way, for, on average of the top 15, 20 players, but I'm just saying they're not as great as a Luka, a Jokic, an SGA, so he'll get a lot slept on in the MVP, but I think, like I said, Minnesota, another one of those teams that a lot of people didn't expect being as great as they were this season, and I am one of those people who couldn't have expected that, but Ant really is obviously the number one guy on that team, leading them to the third seed in the Western Conference with the best defense in the entire NBA, and Ant has really stepped up his defense in my opinion, showing flashes of elite POA defensive capabilities in my opinion. So, Ant is really the closer of that team. He's really the engine that drives that offense, and he's really the leader of that team already in my opinion, and at so young of an age, maybe a little bit less experience than some of these other guys on the list, I think he definitely is deserving of an All-NBA second team selection, and I expect him to be on that when it comes out. Now, another guy that has had a incredible efficient season, that is future Hall of Famer forward for the Phoenix Suns, Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant has had one of his best shooting seasons of his career, which is crazy to say because, KD has had such a long history throughout his career of all-time great scoring and shooting and efficient seasons, but offensively, he was an absolute monster this year and really stepped up in a lot of situations where, Bradley Beal and maybe Devin Booker was out. Suns have a real depth and defensive problem, so Kevin Durant has really stepped up on both ends of the floor, has played some of the best defense of his career, which is crazy to say because he's 35 years old, and typically a 35-year-old who's as great as KD is wouldn't be giving all that effort on defense, and I think it's a situation where he knows he has to if he wants to win, but the fact that he's been able to do it so consistently throughout the season is amazing to me. So KD across 75 games has averaged 27 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists with a steal and a block per game, flirting really closely with a 50-40-90 season, averaging 52% from the field, 41 from 3 on 5.4 attempts, and 85% from the line. KD is just a lock for the second team All-NBA in my opinion, and definitely deserves it with every consideration possible. Awesome all-time season from KD for his career. For the fourth player on my second team All-NBA list, I have Kawhi Leonard of the Clippers. I think if you're making a comeback player of the year award prediction, I think Kawhi's got to be the guy, him or Zion, because Kawhi, I mentioned this in a different video, but Kawhi has really shut a lot of people up this season, including myself. I had some real worries about Kawhi's future in the NBA. Is he gonna be able to stay healthy? We're seeing now that, even after this season, he has some knee issues persisting, and whether he will be available and fully ready to go for the playoffs is something we have to think about. But I will say, Kawhi Leonard, no question in my mind, deserves a spot on this list. Talk about efficient. Not only did Kawhi Leonard play 68 games this season, which is definitely a step up from what we expect from him, he also averaged 34 minutes a game doing that, and clearly being the best player on the Clippers team in my opinion. You could say Paul George is close second, but I definitely think it's Kawhi's team, and he has really led the Clippers this season, securing that fourth spot in the West. And Kawhi averaged 24 points per game, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists with about 1 block and 1.6 steals per game team on a 52, 42, 88 shooting season, which is mind-blowing. 52, 42, 88, that is like all-time great efficiency. Listen, I know the points are 24 a game, but you cannot deny that Kawhi is not back and in peak form offensively at the very minimum. Gotta give this guy his credit. All-NBA second team, much deserved in my opinion. And to round out the All-NBA second team, I have Lakers big man Anthony Davis, who has had, again, I talked about this in a recent video. I keep saying that, but it's true. I made an Anthony Davis video, and to a lot of people's surprise, including my own, Anthony Davis had one of his more healthy, consistent, dominant seasons of his career. I think it got a little bit undershadowed in the media because of the Lakers record, but when you look at the stats and, you know, how many games AD played, I believe he played 76 NBA games this season out of 82, which is actually a career high in games played for AD. And then you look at the numbers, like I said, just dominating on the glass and offensively and defensively. He should be at least runner-up for DPOY in my opinion. He's one of the top 3 guys in that conversation, dominating on the defensive end of the floor while providing consistently great offense as well. Just a monster two-way season, and like I said, consistently this season for AD, which is something that has to be commended because that's one of his criticisms. AD averaged 25 points per game, 13 rebounds or assists, which is also a career standout assist number. His career high was 3.9 in 2019 with the Pelicans, but really upped his assist numbers this year, 3.5, 2.3 blocks, 1.2 steals on 56% from the field, 27 from 3, and 81 from the line. Now, like I said, you're gonna have a hard time finding a better statistical season from a big man other than Jokic, Embiid, who didn't play enough games, and that's pretty much it, right? You could say Giannis is a big man, but I just mean in terms of like a real like centers, and I know AD plays power forward. You guys get my point. A center archetype player, right? Good luck finding a better season from a guy that's not Jokic or Embiid on both ends of the floor this season in the entire NBA from a big man. Now, that is going to round out the All-NBA second team list that I have. Now, this is where it got really interesting for me moving into the All-NBA third team selections that I made. This gave me a lot more respect for voters of these selections because this is a really hard list to narrow down, man. There's a lot of great seasons put together by so many NBA players that it's really hard to select 15, especially now that you have positionless basketball on these lists. It's so hard to narrow down. So like I said, there are going to be a lot of guys that are left off on my list that deserve to be on the list, and it's really unfortunate that there's only 15 spots because I'm telling you, I'm going to do a whole list of honorable mentions that all deserve credit and attention and respect for their elite play this season. But here are my 5. Starting off with the point guard position, we have future Hall of Fame point guard for the Golden State Warriors, Stephen Curry. Again, not much needs to be said about this guy. Everyone knows who he is. Everyone knows what he's about. Everyone probably knows what kind of season he's had. The only reason he's on my, third All-NBA team is because of the Warriors being the 10 seed in the Western Conference. I think that really hurt his case, but I know his help has been spotty at times throughout the season, so I'm not putting all the blame on Steph. You just can't do that. That's really unfair, but he is the guy, and Steph played 74 games this season, averaging 26.4 points per game, about 4 rebounds and 5 assists, shooting 45% from the field, 41% from 3 on 12 attempts per game, by the way, and 92% from the line. So, that's just all-time great offense at work and at play, and you just can't leave someone like that off the list, regardless of their record. I think even if Steph didn't make the play-in tournament this year and lost that seed to the Rockets, you still gotta, put him on this list because of the statistical masterclass, like I said. But second player I'm gonna have on my list is going to be Tyrese Halliburton, superstar point guard for the Indiana Pacers, who has had one of the greatest scoring and playmaking and efficiency statistical seasons in NBA history for a point guard. Again, when bringing up the word efficiency, you have to mention this guy's name near the top of the entire NBA. Tyrese averaged 20 points per game, 11 assists, 4 rebounds, 1.2 steals, and 0.7 blocks on 48% from the field, 36% from 3, and 85% from the line. So, the 3 percentage went down as the season progressed, which is unfortunate. The big thing to note here is the 11 assists per game with 2.3 turnovers per game. That is almost impossible. I'm not sure that's ever been done in NBA history. It's just an unreal assist to turnover ratio. To be making the plays and passes that this guy makes on a consistent basis without turning the ball over as much as he does definitely deserves a spot on this list, especially since the Pacers have been lifted to the 5 seed in the NBA playoffs, led by star point guard Tyrese Halliburton. Third selection for my All-NBA third team list is going to be Devin Booker, shooting guard for the Phoenix Suns. A lot of these, offensive efficiency numbers are just insane from All-NBA third team selections like Devin Booker. Like D-Book and Kevin Durant had a really similar season. It's actually kind of funny how similar it was statistically, but Devin Booker, 1A, 1B type scenario on offense with Kevin Durant this season. And like I said, talk about efficient. D-Book played 68 games across the NBA season, averaged 27 points per game, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists, which is a career high for Devin Booker. And considering that Devin Booker played a lot of point guard this season, it's actually insane how great that he was throughout the season, because that's a massive adjustment for Devin Booker to come into the season and having to switch your entire position, one of the hardest positions to play in the NBA. NBA as it is. So definitely deserving of the spot on this list. And like I said, also along with Kevin Durant, getting the Suns to the 6th seed, which is huge for these two players. Now for the 4th selection on my list, we have the generational GOAT, LeBron James, and my favorite player of all time. LeBron actually, funny enough, had one of his best offensive seasons statistically and efficiency wise. Again, we're kind of seeing a trend here with the efficiency numbers from a lot of these guys, but LeBron averaging 26 points per game, 7.3 rebounds, 8.3 assists, 1.3 steals, and 0.5 blocks on 54, 41, and 75 shooting splits across a 71 game season. First of all, I'd like to give a huge shout out to LeBron and AD for both playing over 70 games this season. Like I said, that's not something a lot of us would have predicted going into the season, and also shooting 54% from the field, 41% from three, which is a career high for LeBron. Also on 5 attempts a game, that's a really great number for him. And as you guys know, if he's knocking those threes down, it's just give up. Like, how can you stop him offensively when he's hitting those threes like that? So great, all-time great season for LeBron, obviously. Just another accolade to add to the GOAT's mantle. And finally, to round out the All-NBA third team list that I have, I went with Paolo Banchero for the Orlando Magic. And this is the selection that was difficult most because there were like 4 guys that I could have put instead of Paolo. I ended up going with him because of the Magic record and him propelling them into the 6th seed of the playoffs and getting them where they haven't been in so long, led by him. You know, statistically though, you could definitely make a case for a lot of other guys, and I arguably would. It was a really last second decision. Like I said, that's why I have a lot of respect for these voters, because this was so difficult to make, not taking away anything from Paolo because he had an amazing year, and also, like I said, carried the Magic to the playoff spot. So that's something that definitely needs to be recognized and commended, and I do expect him to probably be on the third team because it's not just the offense, he's a two-way monster this season. So, you know, props to him. Like I said, 23 points per game, 7 rebounds, 5 assists on 45 from the field, 34 from 3, and 72 from the line. Like I said, the efficiency is a little worse than a lot of these other guys. The numbers are a little more flat than a lot of these other guys, but when you consider the defensive improvements and the playoff spot that he led the Magic to, I think it's worth it to put him on this list. Now, before I get into these honorable mentions, and these are just players that I think you easily could have swapped out for a guy like Paolo or a lot of these guys on the All-NBA third team. All of these players, in my opinion, deserve to be on an All-NBA team. They just unfortunately couldn't get a spot. You know, there's just not enough spots for all the great players. So first of all, let me know down in the comments section what you think of my list before I get into the mentions. And now let's get into it. So like I said, the top 3 or 4 guys that I think definitely deserve to be on the list that I didn't put are Bam Adebayo, Jaylen Brown, Tyrese Maxey, and De'Aaron Fox. Also Domantas Sabonis as well, Paul George. All of those honorable mentions I just made, all those guys deserve a spot on the list. They just, like I said, not enough spots. So huge shout out to them. Maybe one of those guys will sneak into an All-NBA list, but I doubt it. Especially Tyrese Maxey is my favorite player. So yeah, Bam Adebayo, Jaylen Brown, Tyrese Maxey, De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Paul George. And then there's some other guys I wanted to just shout out for amazing play this season that maybe I don't expect to be on a list, but definitely deserves some type of recognition for their elite play. And that is Victor Wembanyama, Damian Lillard, Rudy Gobert, DeMar DeRozan, and Kyrie Irving, who unfortunately didn't play 65 games this season, but another couple guys are Zion Williamson, Pascal Siakam, Karl Anthony Towns, and I think that's pretty much it. So like I said, that was a lot to make this list, and I have a lot more respect for the voters than I did before. You know, you see a guy that you wanted to be on the list not make it, and you're like, oh, they're biased or they don't know ball or whatever, but this is a really hard thing to do, actually, sitting down and doing it. So let me know down in the comment section if you think I got something wrong, or you know, who you would put instead of some of the people I put. Anyone I didn't mention at all, even with the honorable mentions, let me know. And also, if you guys want to, make sure you guys, you know, do a fun little 15 player selection like I did, and let me know down in the comment section what you come up with, because I'm really curious what you guys have in comparison to mine. So anyways, that's gonna be it for the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you guys drop a like on it if you guys did enjoy it. Thank you guys for watching all the way to the end. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. It really mean a lot to me. I'm trying to grow every single day. We're gonna be uploading every single day throughout the playoffs this season, so make sure you guys do subscribe, and hopefully you guys have a fantastic rest of your day today. Hopefully your favorite team wins their next NBA game, and hopefully your favorite team has a player that I mentioned in this video, and if they don't, hopefully they can secure one in the draft or the future. I will talk to you guys in the next one. This is your boy D-Haven. As always, peace.